because Jon Stewart is apparently coming back to the Daily Show, right?
Or just Mondays.
Well, yes. So essentially, they had all these hosts that they were potentially going to do. One of them, apparently, it was going to be Hassan Minhaj, and allegedly, it was because of the whole like hoopla that's the reason they're not doing Hassan Minhaj.
Oh, with his lies?
That's what a bunch of articles said.
That makes sense.
Because he had the big scandal, and that sort of moved him out of the front
Fake
runner.
hate crimes,
and then they've decided that they're going to do a 5-day show, but they're going to have a different person host every week. Which
okay. So that's, I guess that's kind of cool.
And Jon Stewart's coming back Monday, and that's kind of like a big deal for them.
Who are the other four? Costa, Dulce.
I'm not sure. They might be changing. I don't know if it's going to be.
I know Roy Wood Jr. is like, I'm out.
He's out. Why is he out? Because he waited too long?
No, because I think it seemed like it was clear that he wasn't going to be the host, and so he's just like, I'm done with it.
I'm done with waiting around.
The show, yeah.
So the Daily Show's obviously their viewers are much lower than what they were.
Oh, brutal. Do you have...
So Jon Stewart's coming back to not. If he does come back, I think which you think he is. He's not coming back to the same Daily Show he left.
So his episodes, I could see being
successful
just because it's election year. The shows,
he's sort of coming back at a good time because he sort of left before all the Trump stuff. So he didn't. The thing is, it's hard for some of these people that were so like angry and like had like the syndrome to the max to come out and now be like playful.
Shout out to Michael Costa, by the way, for having the best ratings out of any guest host.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Is it because something happened on his?
I don't know if maybe it was because of the wars. No, because I know he had. I remember he was at the stand. He was talking about it. I don't know.
No, that is cool, but I think there's a lot of times with these
their average viewers, 383,000 viewers an episode. Like,
and that seems higher than I would have thought.
Really? I mean, I imagine during Jon Stewart, granted, the media landscape was way different with streaming YouTube, but like, I bet you Jon Stewart's heyday was like millions.
Maybe. I don't know. I really would not have put them at 400K. I bet you that's padded as fuck, dude.
Well, that's like the official Nielsen, which I think are fairly... Daily Show peak ratings, 2.5 million nightly. 2013. Not that long ago. 10 years ago.
So he's coming back to a very fraction.
10%.
But Stewart did really sort of...
We call him Leibowitz on this show, by the way. We call him by his Christian or Jewish name.
People are getting outed for their Jewish names now.
Just Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban's Twitter right now is like, I guess Mark Cuban. And I think it came from Sam Hyde too. Like he did. What
did he post?
Because Mark Cuban did an AMA where he goes, "All right, I got some time. Ask me anything." And then Sam Hyde was like, "Did you consider any other Jewish names or other names when you changed your name to a Jewish name or whatever?" Because his real name's like Mark Cubanitsky or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's not, I don't know if he changed it or if it's like one of his family members changed it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the Daily Show, probably in its peak, it was like Jon Stewart sort of invented this game. Mm-hmm. They took it and ran with it so far, but Jon Stewart like didn't. I feel like he's somewhat never completely like lost his mind to the point where like I don't feel like he has any stink on him from that whole era.
His Apple show stunk. Mm-hmm. That was like he was very much.
That's true. He was trying to bomb.
It was a huge bomb, and then he canceled it because he's like, I'm not doing.
He tried to make some stance about
something China related, essentially. Where like,
I feel like every time he gets into hot water, he comes back and talks about 9/11 firefighters again.
Well, that's kind of
it's so definitely a safeguard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I agree on that. That's kind of a safe thing, but I mean, he had a lot of. He just was. He wasn't really giving the same play like the way he would have treated subjects like. Now, I guess back then, like he kind of wasn't as much nuance, I guess. Whereas that was probably like what made him very good was. But anyways, I
was also no one was really doing what he was doing to that.
No, nobody was doing what he was doing. YouTube was.
I mean, I know that show existed before him, but I think he popularized it.
Yeah, and you know, like.
That's sort of like comedy being the news, like basically like left-wing comedy sort of just like taking the piss out of like Republican senators or whatever. Like he sort of popularized that genre, which became, you know, that's what everyone says. Like Jon Stewart's the guy that like almost ruined comedy in a lot of ways because every comedian kind of became that because of his influence.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, he was replacing the news sometimes. Like he was literally delivering news as well, and. But yeah, like he wasn't as much competition.
I think he was one of the first comedy hosts to like get serious and cry.
Yeah.
Like he was the first guy to be like, you know, sometimes we do a comedy show, but sometimes we get series here, but what's happening is not okay.
He was like legitimately doing journalism where he would find out shit about certain people, politicians or whatever, like whatever CEOs or whatever.
He would like break stories.
He would like break stories, like
what?
Not maybe break stories, but he would.
Was he breaking?
So like certain things he would like hold their feet to the fire, I guess, more so than like the news would, because it was like that was just their pals, I guess, and he was more coming at it. Like people were saying, like they would get their people would watch like Daily Show for their news.
Well, I think a lot of people do that.
I mean, if you watch Daily Show for your news right now, that's like a next level kind of retarded thing.
I mean, how is it any different than watching CNN? Like legitimately,
I guess.
I don't know. I feel like I get news from podcasts a lot.
I'm not talking about podcasts. I don't know. The Daily Show is just. Have you seen it recently? It just seems like they're trying to, instead of doing the same thing, they're trying to do like a version of what they used to do.
That I agree with.
Yeah, they're trying to get that secret sauce back, and you're just like it's not that show anymore. And
yeah, and Stewart, you're right, because he was doing a version of it himself.
Yeah, he was doing a version of it.
You know what? Yeah. It does seem like he did the reverse Seinfeld, where it's like you go out on top, the like media landscape changes. Like Seinfeld went out on top, and he's kind of like, "Wow, I was the biggest sitcom ever," and it was like, also there are never going to be any big sitcoms again to that level. So it's like you got to kind of say for the rest of your life, you're just like, I was the best guy that did that, and then you go. It's not, even if someone was twice as good as you, it won't matter because the thing's sort of dying out.
Yeah, the whole thing's totally different, yeah.
So it's like he sort of got to go out on top, and then to come back and then sort of bring a crappy one and come back and do this. It seems like maybe not the move. I'm sort of changing my opinion.
I think Jon Stewart is specifically doing this because it's the election and he's like legitimately thinks that he can like make a difference.
Oh, you think it's that?
Yeah.
I hope not.
I mean, well, why else? For one night. He could, I mean...
Maybe he misses the spotlight.
They'll give it to you for the year. I mean, I'm sure if he goes, I'd like the show for this year.
Well, I don't think he wants to work 4 or 5 days a week.
Oh, maybe that's true.
Like, that's a fucking 90-hour-a-week job. He's sitting pretty on his millions. He's like, I'll get all of the fame with 1 day of the work.
That's true.
And he's maybe been like, that's probably one of the reasons he keeps coming back. He maybe misses a little bit just being like the darling that he was.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Instead of going to the parties as this guy that used to be that.
I wonder what his Apple TV...
Might be miscalculating, though.
I wonder what his Apple ratings were. Because I wonder if it was less or more was the problem with Jon Stewart.
Yeah, that was not really as big of a smash as people thought it was. And also a part of it was like he was too... not almost like not left-wing and progressive enough for how things have gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Here's an interesting fact. The median age of a Daily Show viewer went from 48 in the mid 2010s to 63 now. So literally they just kept the audience, but nobody new is watching.
That's a show for old people.
It's now a show for old people. Yeah.
That is such an interesting
Which, you know what? It makes sense also.
Have an old guy.
I bet you all late night shows have other than maybe Saturday Night Live, have that exact same statistic, which makes sense why when people do it, they go like,
Saturday Night Live does too, though. I told you, remember when I did those couple dates with Colin Jost? I was saying it was a pretty old demographic.
Pretty old, yeah. Okay, well then there you go. Maybe I'm just like referencing, because, they do post a lot of their sketches on YouTube, and a lot of their YouTube sketches do like fucking crush on YouTube, and maybe
but I'm saying the actual viewers
on TV, yeah.
That might be old people.
Yeah,
like Jimmy Kimmel every night is talking to people with gray hair.
Yeah,
like he's young to them.
Yes,
he's a young whippersnapper,
he's like the young hip guy. So, which it makes sense, and it makes sense why when people do any appearances, you're like, yeah, I didn't get one new Twitter follower, Instagram follower, nothing.
No, nothing.
Nobody sees it. Like Colin has been doing a joke recently. I don't know if you've seen it, but I don't know if he does it that often, where he just like he makes sure they go, you've seen him on the Tonight Show, and then his whole thing is how nobody's seen him on the Tonight Show.
No, the only way they see you on the Tonight Show if it goes viral afterwards on the internet,
which it doesn't. Not for comedians, anyways. Maybe a couple.
Some of them do, yeah. But interesting. But it does seem like it feels to me like Jon Stewart a little bit didn't get that much stink on him from all of the years of. He could have became like a complete like Twitter, like he wasn't even really on Twitter like that.
No,
like I feel like Jon Stewart could have completely just become like a fucking TDS lunatic, but he didn't at all.
No, and the moment he tried to push back against the COVID stuff, it was
Right. Yeah. Right.
It was kind of like a scandal. People couldn't believe it, especially going on.
Probably it was like a turning point.
Going on Stephen Colbert's show and insinuating that it was a lab leak.
Mm-hmm. But it does seem like a guy like Jon Stewart, you'd think that if he wants to have his other big thing, and I think that, again, I'm not an expert on his career, but to me it seems like if you go out on top as the king, right? You want to come back like every now and then and do, here's my big thing.
Yeah.
Like I think that's where like Seinfeld will come back every 3 years and be like, here's my big stand-up special. Or
right.
Make Jon Stewart make like a thing every now and then that's big. But
yeah, he's tried. I mean, he had this podcast. I think he did like a movie. Wrote and directed a movie, but just like nothing's ever gonna
he could like, or at least if he had a podcast that was like Bill Maher for the left-wing people.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because Bill Maher technically is that, but
you know what I mean.
But I know because he's not far left enough for the left wing people, and so everything's getting splintered up. Like
everything's getting pushed over. So maybe there's no space for
I think in his mind, Jon Stewart goes, I probably just want to be what Bill Maher's doing.
Probably
like in that space, kind of, and then you're like, well, what am I going to do? The same thing Bill Maher's doing? Like he probably would want to go interview people like that,
and Jon Stewart probably would want to, not just toe the line every single time.
No,
because he knows that's not that funny.
No.
But I don't know. Maybe who knows if he has the sauce anymore? I guess it'll be interesting to see. But here's my prediction. My prediction is the first few weeks you hear a lot about it, and then it sort of like dwindles away, and you don't hear that much about it, and it happens for a year tops, and every now and then he's used as like a headline for a news story.
Yeah, that's and another big factor, which is. I can't imagine he has access to this, but like the writers are going to be way different. I bet you if he could get his writers from the heyday, who are probably some of them are like big celebrities
Huge
now.
Point.
If you could get those writers, but you're like, we know the type of writers who are going to be writing the shit coming out of his mouth. They're not the same people who wrote back in the day. They're going to be like, they just have different things they care about.
And different opinions
and more like modern shit. And, that's the stuff he's going to be saying, I guess.
That's interesting. You forget that he's not writing it. It's completely
he doesn't write it,
factor.
And those writers, just so. Anyways, maybe.